We all have limited time. I currently also have limited space. I've been working over the past year to create a setup that works well for myself so that I can model, record videos, and do live streams all in a limited amount of space with limited setup time. In today's video, I will show you the best streaming and video recording setup that I could come up with for my 2021 goals. Welcome to Humanity Junction, where the city intersects with humans. Today's video is sponsored by CMR Products and Iron Planet Hobbies, as well as my individual supporters. There will be more information later in the video. My setup at the end of 2020 was not as flexible as I would have liked, and this meant that I was constantly adjusting things in order to accomplish my goals. By making some changes, I was able to create what I believe is the best setup for my current needs. Looking back at my old setup, I'm very happy with what I was able to accomplish with it. But let's start tearing everything down so that I can rebuild. I really wanted to start over with a clean slate. The first thing I did was to set up the folding tables that I usually use to support my T-Trak modules. These tables came in very handy to organize everything. I cannot believe how much stuff I had in such a small place. The desk is an autonomous AI, dual motor sit-stand desk. I really like using this desk as the foundation of my space because there are times where I much prefer standing to do work. Once I had the desk cleared out, you can get a better look at my original desktop. When I got the desk, I really wanted the cutout for the keyboard, but for modeling, this meant that the surface directly in front of me had a big gap. The first step was adding another desktop surface. The new top was not exactly the same size, even though I purchased it from the same company. It's about 1 inch short front to back, but left to right the sides line up. I decided to just lay the second desktop over the first, as this would give me a sturdier work surface. At least that was my thinking. I did check the monitor stand to make sure that it would still fit on the thicker desk. What I did not realize until the very end of the setup is that while using two desks makes it sturdier, it also makes it a lot heavier. And since I'm already very close to the max weight limit of the desk so that the motors can raise the desk without straining, I should have removed the original desk surface. I am really happy with the current setup, and it took me about 2 weeks to complete, so at this time, I don't want to change it. When I need to raise the desk, I am assisting it on the way up. For the rebuild, I'm starting with the monitors. In this new arrangement, I will be setting up two 27-inch monitors side by side, both in landscape orientation. I toyed with the idea of setting the monitor on the right side in portrait mode to use the additional height while reading the chat for live streams, but ultimately I decided on a more standard setup. Before I hung the second monitor, I added the upright on the left side where I would mount the two laptops. I wanted the laptops to be directly accessible, meaning that I could get to the keyboard and trackpads as needed, but I did not want anything sitting on the desk. One goal for 2021 is to do a lot more modeling. And in order to do this, I wanted to get as much of the computers and streaming equipment off the desk and out of the way. The center of the desk is for working on projects. Under the monitors will be all of the tools that I need for modeling, and everything else will be mounted above the monitors or out of the way on the sides. I knew that I wanted to have the stepped organizational shelf in the corner, so I used it to make sure that the pole holding the laptops was far enough out of the way so that the shelf could be set as far in the corner as possible. The only major new item for this setup was the second 27-inch monitor. The remainder of the items are all from the 2020 setup. My current plan is to have the lower laptop screen align with the 27-inch monitors and the second laptop to align with a smaller monitor that I will mount above the 27-inch monitor. This is not a very efficient setup for the laptops, and 99 out of 100 times, I'm not going to use the laptop screens, but I do want them available in case I need them. I originally thought that this complete project would take about 2 days. This was a significant underestimate. I could have done it faster, but even though I did map out my plan during the build process, I reevaluated whether each piece of hardware was in the best location. Once I got the two monitors and the two laptops in their planned locations, I tried to clean up some of the piles that I had made. But then I decided to just move on. For lighting the work surface, I knew that I wanted one light mounted high left, lined up with the desk. Later in the video, you will see the light on the right side get mounted slightly in front of the desk and slightly lower. The light on the left will be my main light for my overhead shot, while the light on the right side is my main light for the side shot. Both lights will fill in the shadows for the other light. I will also have a light mounted for the camera shot on my face. While we are talking about lighting, there's also going to be lighting mounted behind the monitors for bias lighting while I'm editing. And I'm also setting up additional lighting on the backdrop that'll be seen behind me in videos. While this might seem like a lot of lights, I like the layered effect it provides in my videos and live streams. Next, I'm trying to find a place for my microphone boom arm. If I had one complaint about the current setup, it's that I'm not 100% happy with its current location, and I'm still trying different options. I tried the microphone boom arm on the left side, behind the monitors, and on the right side. The best place for it is really on the right side, but I really don't want it on the right because I have some plans for videos that will require more open space on the right side of the desk. Again, I tried to do a little straightening up, this time with slightly more success. I eventually mounted the Audio-Technica AT2020 condenser microphone to the boom arm and tried another location. Next, I just moved on to finding a location for the Zoom H6, which I'm using as my XLR to computer interface. I went into this build knowing where I wanted the video part of the project, but I just could not figure out the audio. I moved on to mounting the main camera for my talking headshots. The main camera that I'm using is a Canon 5D Mark II. This was the first DSLR that could shoot 1080p 30 frames per second. It was released in November of 2008. I bought this camera for my photography hobby used in 2010. Yes, the camera that I am using is over 12 years old. The main downside of this camera is that it does not have autofocus, but it is a full-frame DSLR and I like the output video, so for now, it's staying in my setup. You do not need the latest and greatest piece of new equipment to get really good results. The lens I am using is a Canon 24-105 f4. Mounted on the front of the lens is a Podcaster Parrot smartphone teleprompter. Above the camera is a 5.5-inch monitor so that I can see the talking head camera output. The monitor also has focus assist and overexposure, which helps make sure that everything looks good. Right next to the camera, I'm mounting the light for my face. Ultimately, this light is not bright enough, but since it's nice and soft and fills in the shadows, it works for now. At this time, I'm going to get a better idea of the location of the softbox light on the right so that I can be sure my talking head camera shot does not see the light in the corner. I'm doing a lot of thinking, and it's not going very well. I move on to setting up the supports for the overhead cameras. I mark out the center of the desk where I will be doing my main modeling. I want the overhead cameras to be slightly in front of the mark on the desk. My overhead camera tech is the biggest change from my previous setup. I wanted a 4K overhead camera. I wanted to be recording the additional pixels so that I can zoom in and still output a clean 1080p video. But 4K cameras are still pretty expensive, especially one that can record at 4K and stream at the same time. My solution was to get a GoPro Hero 9 to record the 4K 60 frames per second, and then use my Sony RX100 IV for streaming. Ideally, I would only need one camera, but I had the Sony already, and this is what fit into my budget. So far, I'm happy with the results, but check out my future videos and let me know what you think. The version of the Sony camera that I have came out in 2015, over 5 years ago. This is another example of using what I have available. I mounted both cameras to the same mounting arm. Everything is on a quick release plate so that I can use the cameras for other applications if needed. You can see in this still image that I have the talking head camera on, and I'm confirming that the lens of the Sony camera will not be in the shot of the Canon camera. Next, I'm adding the support for the overhead shotgun microphone. I like to use this studio condenser microphone for my recorded videos to get better sound quality. I'm still learning how to best do this. But I use the overhead shotgun microphone for live streams when I do not want to have the other microphone in front of my face. Having both microphones gives me a lot of options. The overhead microphone is an Audio-Technica AT2021 cardioid condenser microphone. The placement of this shotgun microphone is approximately 1 to 2 feet away from my head. It's just out of camera shot. I would like to one day replace this with a hypercardioid microphone such as the AT4053B, as this would provide better room noise isolation. But the current short shotgun microphone does a pretty good job. When combined with the audio processing software on the computer, it's pretty amazing what you can do with the audio. You can see in these still images how close all of the various equipment is to each other. From the back of the desk, you can see all of the grip gear that I used to mount all of these devices to the monitor stand. The overhead camera setup is even braced with a secondary arm to help stabilize the cameras from shaking. I did not have all the mounting arms that I needed at this point, so I took the arm for the secondary laptop and used it to hang the monitor that I'm going to be connecting to this laptop. I wanted this monitor as close to the corner as possible, above the 27-inch monitor, but below the softbox light. Once this monitor was set, I rehung the light and went below the desk to start the wiring. Even with just time-lapse footage, the wiring took a really long time. I used adhesive zip tie mounts to secure the cables under the desk. I spent the time up front to make all of the wiring as neat as possible, because then it makes the troubleshooting easier in the future. I finally realized that I had a good place to mount the Zoom H6 audio interface, and I hung it on the overhead camera rigging. It is mounted in a really great spot where I will be able to see the audio meters at a quick glance. Except for the wiring, this is all of the main components now in their place. I really like how much space I have available on the desk. I put the entire desk on some old carpet pad squares with the felt side down. This allows the desk to slide fairly easily, even with all of the weight on it. This allows me to get behind the desk for the initial wiring installation, as well as if I need to adjust anything or make any updates in the future. I used 3M Scotch dual lock reclosable fasteners, which is sort of an industrial version of Velcro, to secure the power supplies and other items to the bottom of the desk. I also used this on the Thunderbolt 3 dock and the external hard drive to the top of the desk. The adhesive is very good, but it can be removed from the desk surface if I need to move something. The Thunderbolt 3 dock that I'm using with my main laptop is the CalDigit TB3 Plus. I have had this for several years and it works really well for me. Here I am putting the 3M fastener on the LCD power supply and attaching it to the bottom of the desk. Now, before anybody asks in the comments, yes, I was concerned with the power supplies overheating being directly under the desk. This is why I added USB-powered computer fans under the desk to blow cool air across the power supplies. This is actually working really well to keep the temperatures down under the desk. I ran 3 microphone cables from the H6. One cable to the overhead shotgun microphone, one to the microphone on the adjustable arm, and the last one I just ran under the desk for the future addition of a lavalier microphone. It is definitely a tight fit behind the desk. I have power strips connected under the desk and then plugged into the wall, so I can only move the desk so far away from the wall. Both cameras that I used to shoot the time lapses are GoPro cameras. One is a GoPro Hero 5 and the other is a GoPro Hero 9. Can you tell which is which? I'll give you a clue. The GoPro Hero 9 is a lot more saturated than the Hero 5. The fun part of wiring everything up is seeing everything come alive. As I am putting all of the modeling tools back onto the desk, this gives you a really good view of the bias lighting behind the monitors. The majority of the system will be connected to smart plugs so that I can turn off different lighting components as needed. I will be able to adjust the lighting to achieve the desired effects, as well as turn off the items that use a lot of power to save electricity. I do a bit of cleanup. There are some items that I no longer use in this area, so I'll pack them away neatly so that I can find them in the future. I was using the right side softbox to light the area I was working in. So once all the major work was done, I mounted it on its light stand on the desk. Once I reorganized the bookshelf, I was able to get some additional items off the desk, like the fan, and it really opened the space up. I tried to take a lot of close-up photos so that you can see all of the details. I use a Kinesis Freestyle 2 split keyboard and an Ergo MX trackball. On the right side is a Contour Shuttle Pro that I use for video editing. I even installed a light over the keyboard. I barely know how to type, and this makes it a lot easier to see the keys when needed. On the left side, I have a phone charger, and my iPad is running Updeck. Updeck is what I use to control the screens during my live streams. If people are interested in the modeling tools that I'm using, I can do a separate video on all of these items. The Sony camera has a flip-out screen, which is really nice to have when trying to show a close-up of an item during a live stream. I decided to keep a timer on my desk. The cameras cannot record forever, and I will use this to keep track of time so that I can take breaks. I added a center speaker under the monitors so that I can listen to YouTube videos while I model. Here is where I moved the small fan onto the bookshelf, which saves me a lot of space on the desk. I still need to organize this shelf a little better. I know due to my space constraints that not everything will be perfectly organized, but I can definitely make this better. On the back wall, behind where I stand or sit when making videos, I added LED picture lights to the background. I used my small DeWalt clamps to hold them into place. Now I need to get more clamps. Please let me know if you have any questions about my setup. There was a lot of thought that went into everything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it all makes sense. I hope you've enjoyed this walkthrough, and I look forward to creating videos from this work area for 2021. I am what I am because of who we all are. CMR Products has designed and developed several in-house brands and are continually creating new items. Please check out their products at cmrproducts.com and use the discount code HUMAN for 7% off their in-house brands. Iron Planet Hobbies is a model railroad shop that specializes in DCC and stocks nearly 100% of Digitrax, NCE, TCS, Soundtracks, Digikais, ESU, and Nix trains. Please visit their website at ironplanethobbies.com and use the discount code HUMAN at checkout to receive a 10% discount and free shipping in the USA. And now a huge thank you to all of my supporters on both Patreon and those that purchased items from my Teespring store. If you would like to find out more information about supporting this channel, all of the links will be in the description below. Thank you for watching. Please leave any comments or questions below and hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe and select the bell icon to be notified about future videos and to join this community. Thank you and have a great day.